how did I get into playing music? Well, going back as far as I can remember, probably when I was 5 or 6 years old, my mom bought me a 61 key Casio little electronic keyboard, and I resonated and took to that thing instantly. I absolutely loved it. It fascinated me that I could push these buttons and make these sounds and basically come up with whatever it was that I wanted to hear. I could make that instrument do that, and it just fascinated me. Around that time, also started my love for video games. Of course, I got my first Nintendo Entertainment System around that time as well, and I remember I used to come up with these video game tracks, like a lot of melody work that would fit like whatever scene that I saw in my head. I used to want to make games for a living, but I would like come up with these like RPG games in my head, and I would just like write music that would fit that, and it just fascinated me. It was one of my favorite things to do, and I spent a ton of my time just working on silly little things like that. So my first instrument was actually a keyboard. When I showed a little bit of promise, my mom took me to lessons, but that was just not my scene. It never has been. I know I should probably have learned theory and really locked down, but when you're like 6 or 7 years old, that's kind of the last thing you want to do. I was just interested in coming up with my own thing, and that has kind of carried through the rest of my life. When I was in high school, my buddy had a guitar. He was in a guitar class, and I never really picked one up before or anything. And, I always just thought, oh man, that's so complicated. It's got strings, and I don't know anything about how to make it work or whatever. But we were at his house for a party, and everybody was drinking and, having a good time and stuff. And I didn't back then, so I was looking for stuff to do. I was kind of bored, so I picked up the guitar, and I was just kind of plucking at it, and I realized that, hey, these are like the same melodies that I can make on a keyboard. And I remember I picked out the melody line for Not With Him by Good Riddance. Still a quintessential punk song, by the way, one of my favorites to this day. And, I played it a little bit, and I was like, man, I think I can figure this out. Like, I should really give this a shot. So I went to my mom and told her, like, hey, I'd really like to learn guitar. I think I could do it. And for my 18th birthday, she ended up buying me a guitar. My first guitar was a little red Stratocaster. I think it probably cost all of like $120. It was like one of those little all-in kits that came with the tiny amp and a strap and strings and everything. And oh man, I was just beside myself. I was so stoked, and I got that, and I would just come home from school and play literally for like 8 hours, like after school until it was time to go to bed. One of my favorite songs I remember like playing was Cold Just Got Wicked, because that melody line was so sick for the chorus. Like that was one of my favorite things. But anything that struck my fancy, mostly punk, because that's what I was listening to back then. A lot of like pop punk type stuff. Blink-182 was just kind of like getting big, or for us anyway. I mean, we were kind of late to everything in my town. My first major concert, my parents brought me to, I believe when I was like 15 or so, and it was Metallica at, I believe it was called the Starplex in Dallas. And that was an amazing show. It was so cool. Our seats were pretty high up, but like it didn't matter. I'd never been to a concert before, and it was just such an awesome experience. A bunch of my buddies came too, and man, we had a great time at that one. It was just really incredible. And then after that, my first local show was at the good old American Legion number 169. Was two pretty small bands out of San Diego, California that were touring through, and they were called Commonplace and Noise Ratchet. And they were kind of like indie rock, maybe a little bit of hardcore influence from Noise Ratchet. That was just kind of getting to be a thing, really, for the most part, in the scene. And that was the show that like absolutely got me fixated on wanting to do music. Like just everything about it, the band on stage performing what they were doing, like the feeling and the intensity of the crowd, just every single thing about it just felt like the coolest thing in the world, man. It felt like I finally found something that made sense to me, that like I was part of and all these other people were part of, and there's no other feeling like it. Honestly, even to this day, it's hard to explain, but that show, it kind of changed the trajectory of my life, to be honest. Like that's the point where I knew that like I had to be involved in music somehow, some way, whether it was as a career and like doing it full time or just making it, period. Like I knew at that point, like this is for me, this is what I got to do. In terms of who inspired me musically, I would say probably the biggest influence, honestly, is Buckethead. So around the early 2000s when I was learning to play, obviously the internet was just kind of becoming a thing. But there was a website called guitarwars.com, and it was so freaking cool, man. You would like record a riff, and then you would submit it, and then they would pair it with another riff, and then basically you guys would like battle. People would vote and decide who was the best one. And I just thought that was the coolest freaking thing in the world. But the point of it was always very, very technical. So like I was super focused, and I wanted to be the best guitar player there was. That's just the personality that I had at the time. Like it was like, I'm going to be the best, and that's it. So I happened upon Buckethead, who was really weird and avant-garde, but so freaking just unbelievably talented. Like his stuff was so cool. I just thought it was so neat that like he was a solo guitarist and like putting out his own albums and people were listening to it. Like I don't know how many at the time, but like man, that dude, his body of music is insane. Like I love him. But that was probably my biggest influence for that. Eddie Van Halen, also a very big influence. I do a lot of tap work. I love tapping. I just think it sounds awesome. So I got to give Eddie credit on that one because he influenced me a ton. And then Dimebag Darrell was a big one. Pantera was like the big metal band that I listened to when I was in high school. Like I wasn't really big into metal, but like I knew that they had very technical guitar playing, and that was something that I was into. So that kind of started my journey towards metal. But I was really more into like indie and punk and alternative stuff back then. So, but Dimebag, like man, just listening to him play, like his guitar playing is straight up incendiary. It's incredible. So, and then of course Steve Vai. I would be remiss if I didn't mention him. He's one of the greatest guitar players literally of all time. So, of course, he was a big influence on the way that I play as well, I think. Favorite bands, dude, that is impossible, literally impossible to answer, but I'll throw a few out there. This list is fluid and changes at all times. I listen to a lot of different styles of music. At this point, metal and like all of its subgenres are the main thing that I listen to and the main thing that I enjoy, but I love a lot of like electronic music, even dance music, super big into that. A lot of goth, darkwave, dungeon synth type stuff, atmospheric black metal, like genre-wise. That's kind of my go-to type stuff. I like things that are morose, but consequentially, I also really like things that are melodic. So like melodic death metal is my bread and butter, which obviously from the music that I made, you can probably tell. In Flames is probably my favorite melodic death metal band. Anything before like 2008, A Sense of Purpose, like that album to me, except for one song, which I don't remember the name of off the top of my head, that album's like perfect, man. I love the production. I love writing. I know that's kind of the point where a lot of fans are thinking that, or feel that they kind of jumped the shark, but that album is so awesome to me, man. I don't really like a whole lot of stuff after that, except for like sort of one-off songs, but yeah, In Flames, like before 2008, absolutely unfuckwithable. Like they're phenomenal. Following in that same vein, also Scar Symmetry, Disharmonia Mundi, however the fuck you say that. Silosis absolutely slaps. Love Silosis. The Contortionist, Intervals, both fantastic. I caught them live, and that show was just unfreaking believable. Angel Vivaldi, fantastic guitar player, man. Like I could not say enough good things about him. Like he is so creative, and I just love everything that he does. Along those same lines, Paul Wardingham, Keith Merrow, again, both fantastic guitar players. Dude, they just blow it out of the water. I love those guys. But all-time favorite band is probably Seosin, out of any genre. Something about their music, it just does it for me. It's beautifully put together. It is so melodic. It's incredible. It was huge when I was coming up. Like they were kind of the it band at that time. Like when people talk about like post-hardcore and that type of music, like it was Seosin, man. Like that's who you thought of, and they were just absolutely fantastic. Especially like before they actually put out their first big label album. I think it was Capitol they signed with, but when they were indie or whatever and doing their own shows and stuff like it, man, like that's what you think of when you think back of like fucking killer shows and just a killer time in the scene and fantastic bands. Like that's the memory that I have. Like that's the one that always pops into my head. Coheed and Cambria is another big one, and this one is mostly thanks to my wife. She's like their number one fan in life. You just absolutely cannot deny their talent. They are so creative and so masterful at their instruments. It just blows me away. So they have definitely come way, way up on my list. On the more like gothy side, Twin Tribes, which out of Texas, if I'm not mistaken, hell yeah, guys, that's what's up. Love them. They're so badass. Highly recommend you listen to them. She Passed Away. That's another good one. Depeche Mode. Also, V&V Nation, I believe, would probably fit into this category. And yeah, again, that's just like literally at this moment. So there are so many, and that list changes all the time. But those are some names that will always be on, no matter what. So. Oh man, so I started my very first band shortly after I got my first guitar in my senior year in high school, and we were called A Place Called Here, and we were like indie rock with a little bit of punk influence, a little bit of alternative influence, and we were not great. But everybody's got to start somewhere, and the dudes that I played with are some of my favorite people in life, and I'm glad that we have that memory and that we got to do that together at that time. Very shortly after that, I formed a new band with some new buddies called them the Cried Affair, and it was more like indie rock, emo, punk type stuff, kind of more the same what we played, but a little bit better in terms of musicianship and knowing what we were doing. We did that for a year or two, and then we started a band called Attica, which again kind of fallen in the same vein, but with a little bit more of a hardcore influence, like very, very faint, but we were getting it a little bit. That band was pretty awesome. I gotta say, that was probably one of my favorite bands that I've been in. We had really good turnouts at our shows locally. I mean, we would typically have at least over 50 people and stuff, which I know doesn't sound like a ton, but I don't know, man. When you're playing in a little tiny American Legion hall, that shit was lit, dude. We had a good time with that. But did that for probably about 4 years. During that time, we all the members of the band, we decided to move from our hometown to a metroplex that was not too far away to kind of see what we could do if we get better opportunities, better shows and stuff. Just where stuff was happening. Like in a small town, the scene's only so big, so we figured, hey, if we move to like a metroplex, there's going to be shit going down all the time. And we were right, there was, for better or for worse. After that folded, we did a project called Then There Was Fire. That lasted for like a year, but that was kind of right in the point where I was starting to actually get into metal and metalcore type stuff. So I was listening to like As I Lay Dying and Bullet for My Valentine, that kind of stuff that was big back then. Don't count their bodies, the number is so slight. They made their choice, but you stuck in there with no way out. How can you repay them? So after that, I met the singer of a band called Hope Dies Last, and I still don't really know the whole story of like what happened with them because like I had heard of them sort of like in the scene, but I didn't really know anything about them. But apparently, all their members, like, I don't know if they folded, but the singer was like the only one that was left. So he had got a new guitarist, and then that guitarist got in touch with me and asked if I wanted to come audition and try out for this. And I was like, hell yeah, that sounds cool. So I did, and things went well. So we were going to basically resurrect that band. They had been working with Unearth, from what I understand. Like, I think Ken Susi was like producing them or advising them or something, which I didn't know who that was at the time. I was like, okay, neat. But yeah, so we ended up finding a bass player, and we had a hard time finding a drummer, but we did eventually nail one down. Nothing really happened with it for a long time. So we kind of reformulated like some of the members from that and created a new thing called Bring Forth the Fallen. And it was very, very like super 2007 metalcore, man. Like it was formulaic as fuck, but it was pretty cool. Again, I was still kind of learning like how to play metal and what types of stuff that I liked and how to express myself in that genre. So I learned a ton from that project.
I tell you with a voice that has no sound to you with the words it is no sound. Show me the body that's too much now. I simply must know. The lights are gone out. Show us the way.
And we did pretty well with that. I think back fondly on that one, honestly, the years that we did that. Eventually, that band ended up folding, and I started working on some solo stuff, a project called Fierce that never really saw the light of day, but and I was kind of steering back into like a post-hardcore type sound, sort of like, I don't know, like emo rosa type. I don't know. Again, I wanted to kind of get back to like melodic type stuff as opposed to just like really, really heavy. During that time, I'd gone to some shows and I met a singer of a band called I Met Tragedy, and they were like also a metalcore band. They were cool. They were looking for guitarists, so I joined up with them and played with them for a time. Also, I had some other buddies that were in sort of a pop alternative indie type band called Before the Fall. They were really cool. I joined up with them for a while and played a few shows. So I did those two bands actually at the same time for a while. Then eventually I ended up joining a band called Destrier's Gate, and man, I loved those dudes. We used to play with them all the time and Bring Forth the Fallen, and they were so fucking talented. It was crazy. Like a lot of my style, like with the Gothenburg style, like alt picking and shit like that, like Destriers Gate did that, and that was my jam, dude. I love that. I figured out at that point, I was like, that's the shit that I want to do. So. I auditioned for them and made it, and I was like, fuck yeah, dude. I felt like I made it at that point. I was like, this is so cool. But anyways, played with them for a minute, and then they ended up folding. There was some issues with that band, unfortunately. After that, I kind of just took some time off and didn't really do much. I was working and shit. And I kind of started the idea of a new project called Duality. Originally, I wanted to make that a full band, and I found members and everything, but it just didn't work out, man. People were too busy and whatnot. So I just turned that into a solo project and released the album myself. It was a concept album with no vocals, if you can imagine that. There's a story behind it. Like each song has a story and it feeds into each other. I think it's cool, but whatever. So then after that, my buddy had a band called Flee the Scene, and they were like a pop punk easycore type band. I ended up playing bass for them for a little while, and that was a really fun project.
Here it is, another chance to begin again. A whole day to live and hang out with my friends. I will not wait, I cannot wait till tomorrow. Today's a gift that you're not able to borrow. Summer nights on, city lights on.
After that, I started formulating what I was going to consider like my final band. I was like, fuck it, man. This is like the thing right here. I'm going to pour all my energy into this, and this is going to be the thing. And that was called The Dark Divide. I formed that with the singer of I Met Tragedy, which I talked about earlier. Like, we've been great friends. He's like my vocalist soulmate, man. I love playing with that dude. He's so fucking good and like just a cool guy. But we kind of started that. It sort of had like a cyberpunk aesthetic type vibe that I wanted to go for, and a lot of like the Gothenburg style, like alt picking, a lot of melodic, but also breakdowns and heaviness here and there, but kind of a machine industrial vibe too. So there was a lot of stuff going on with that project. And I kind of feel like we nailed the sound that I had in my head when I put that project together. So I'm pretty proud of the work that I did in that one. It got to the point to where my wife and I moved to another city, and it just was not going to work out. We trying to get back and forth to practice and trying to schedule all this shit. And so eventually I bowed out of that band, and they're still going, and they're phenomenal. They're great, man. You should definitely check them out. They kick ass. But yeah, so after that, I mean, this is over 2 decades worth of playing music, and I am old, and I am crotchety, and I am probably hard to work with, even more so than I used to be. So I kind of knew, I was like, I need to just, if I'm going to do something else, it's got to be a solo thing, man. I can't be fucking trying to work around schedules other than my own and all that. So I had songs that I knew that I wanted to put out, and I had to put out that fit into a project. So that is how Noctivagist came to be. But this project is an amalgamation of melodic death metal, goth and industrial elements, a little bit of thrash, cyberpunk type influence in there, kind of like from The Dark Divide. And I'm just really happy with how it's turned out, man. I wanted to make the kind of music that I want to hear, and I did. Like, I fucking love jamming my stuff. I know that's probably cringe, but it's true, man. Like, that's the stuff that I want to hear, and that's what I listen to. So I fucking just rip it. You know, I didn't really write it. Like, I didn't aim to write it for anybody but me. So there's a lot of stuff in there that is probably questionable from like a professional songwriting standpoint, but I fucking love it, man, and I hope that other people out there love it too. And if you do, thank you. You fucking rule, and you're awesome. I love you. So, I mean, when I started music, obviously I wanted the same thing every musician wants. I wanted to fucking be famous and tour and like get my music out to the entire world and have everyone look at me and think I was awesome. Those goals have changed a lot over the years, especially as I've gotten older and more cognizant of the way that the world works and what I want out of life, really. So at this point, I really just I have to release music, man. I have to. It's a compulsion. I've got music in me that has to come out. And even if I'm the only fucking one that listens to it, that's cool. I got no problem with that. I would like to play live a little bit also, just kind of every once in a while, and like here in my town and maybe like regionally and stuff. I know it's kind of cringe to be the guy that brings a laptop up to play, but to be honest, I just don't have the bandwidth or time to fully form this into a project. And if the alternative is not playing the music, I'm not fucking doing that. So, you know, it's going to get out the way that it's going to get out. Hopefully you dig that, and if you don't, that's cool too, man. I get it. I respect your opinion. That's totally good with me. But yeah, once the live show is ready, I'm going to book shows, and hopefully some people will come see me play if they enjoy what I do. So one big goal that I have for 2026 is I want to get away from the fucking internet. And I know that sounds crazy because that's like the way to promote and the only way to get your music out and shit. But to be honest with you, unless you're spending a whole lot of fucking money on ads, you're not getting anywhere online. Like, people don't fucking pay attention to you on Facebook or Instagram or any of that bullshit. So I want to start going back like the old days, man. I want to start doing like tape trading, CD burning fucking trades, like letters to different countries, pen pal type shit, man. I want to promote physically. I want to be putting flyers up. Like, that's what I want to get to. And I know that might potentially limit my reach, but I mean, fuck, I don't know. Nobody's listening to me now. So what can I really lose from it? I hate the whole fucking AI thing, and I really feel like there's going to be kind of a parallel internet interest type thing. Like the big companies and the AI shit is going to be obviously everywhere, prevalent like it is now. But I think there's going to be like a subculture that builds underneath that, like indie web type stuff, like the new NeoCities fucking revival that's going down, shit like that. And I really think that there's going to be like a whole layer underneath here of people who are authentic and actually trying to find shit that they like that is not fucking algorithmically driven and force-fed you. So I'm looking forward to that, and I will be participating big time in making that come around. But yeah, thank you so much for watching this and finding out a little bit more about me, and find me however you can if you want to, and if not, that's cool too. I just appreciate you being here. So until next time, my friends, riffs and scents, and Goth and drip.